How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. It's been a bit since I last recorded. I believe my last video was a painful one. It was recapping our 3-1 blown lead to Philly, and obviously a lot in the NBA world has transpired since then. I apologize for not making content since then. It's been 2 years and I've been trying to say, okay, I'm gonna make content in the off season. I haven't really, so I apologize. I've just been very busy, um, working multiple part-time jobs at the moment. So I my plate's full, very busy. So apologies about that. But as we gear up for the NFL season, kicking off rather shortly here, a bit more than a month, my beloved Patriots kick off against Seattle to open the season. Actually, the Hall of Fame game is this week too, Thursday. So that'll be entertaining. At least we get some football. I don't know why the hell my eyes are itchy all of a sudden. But yeah, anyway, I'm back. I'm going to try to make some content as we get closer to the season. I'm going to definitely make content as the season is in session. Couldn't think of a better phrase in there. Season's going on. So be on the lookout for that down the line. I thought a good little video to, well, probably not little. I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm just going to kind of spitball this here, come up with it on the fly. But I thought a good video to come back to touch on the NFL season to start off would be a tier list video, putting all the teams, in my opinion, in tiers for this upcoming season. I feel like, tier lists vary. Everyone usually has like the bottom teams and the top teams pretty unanimously agreed on. Jesus Christ, I don't know why the hell my eye is so itchy. And then kind of in between is kind of where some debates happen. So I thought tier lists are fun. Why not? I'll come back, make a video like this. So just to walk through the tier list here. So we got Super Bowl favorites. So not necessarily just betting Super Bowl favorites. I think really I'm only gonna put one team in that category, and I haven't even I'm most of these teams I'm just gonna spitball. Some of them I know immediately where I'm gonna put them. Some of them I'm gonna kind of think out loud and put them in, but I'm gonna put one team in there. You guys can probably take a guess at what team it is, but it's kind of the team that I think everyone's saying, all right, they really should at least make the Super Bowl. Below that, you get Super Bowl contenders. So teams that legitimately can contend for a Super Bowl. Below that, you get likely playoffs, meaning, in my opinion, they're likely to make the playoffs, probably not likely to make it to the Super Bowl, make a Super Bowl run, but who knows? When you get in the postseason, anything can happen. Below that, we get maybe playoffs, so maybe they can make a playoff push, maybe they just miss the playoffs, floating around the playoff picture the whole year. Teams like that. Below that, I did mid slash scrappy. I guess maybe playoff teams can be mid. Um, but I'll keep it. I'll just say mid scrappy. So, middle of the pack, mid team, scrappy team. You're not going to get a lot of wins, but you're a competitive team, respectable team. And then below that, you get on to 2027. In other words, kind of the rebuilding, tanking teams. I did rebuild slash tanking, but it couldn't get it on one line. And it was rebuilding slash, then it had T, and then it started a new line for the rest of tanking. It irritated me. So I just renamed it to On to 2027. Um, so yeah, hopefully those tiers are clear. I feel like they're kind of similar for most of these types of videos. So yeah, I also have my this is a really good magazine. I read this whole thing. Of course it's well, I think it's different covers, but our glorious king, Drake May, as Drake May lover calls him, is on the cover. I went to the whole thing, previewed the season, went over the teams, off seasons, things like that, graded their position groups, added them all up, gave predictions. Really good magazine. I've read it a few years in the past, haven't in a while. Um, yeah, I've read it in the past for a few seasons. I don't know if I ever really fully finished it, but I did this season. So I'm gonna probably use this as reference throughout. So if you see me looking down, scrolling through, that's what I'm doing there. Just checking, see if I missed anything. Um, But yeah, I'll dive straight in here. So first team is the Cardinals. So I'm gonna throw them right into the on to 2027 tier. I think that's kind of unanimously agreed on. I will say their offense has a lot of talent on it. They got, quarterback's the big issue, obviously, with my old guy for the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett. And he only won, I believe, one game last season. It was against Dallas, that Monday night game. But he put up some respectable numbers, and the offense it looked much better with him running the offense than did Kyler Murray, who's now in Minnesota, obviously. They get Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s kind of picking up, unfortunately for him, where he left off last season. He's having some drop issues, things like that. So that's a question mark. Michael Wilson apparently is pushing him for the wide receiver one title. Obviously, you get Trey McBride. You have Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride. They still have James Conner. Obviously, they drafted Jeremiah Love. And poor Tyler Algier. I've been a big Tyler Algier guy. I feel bad for him. He goes to the Cardinals thinking he's going to be the number one back, maybe split carries with Connor, and they draft Jeremiah Love. And so obviously Tyler Algier is probably going to be the odd man out and be the running back three. So that really sucks for him because I think he's really talented. I thought he would have been a good fit with the Chiefs. Obviously the Chiefs got an upgrade over Tyler Algier with Kenneth Walker, no disrespect to him. So good on the Chiefs there. But my point is the Cardinals have a good amount of talent on the offense side of the ball. And they also, obviously, they moved on from Jonathan Gannon. They hired Mike LaFleur as their head coach, who most notably was with the Jets as their offensive coordinator. Obviously, didn't work out. You got to take it with a grain of salt. There was Zach Wilson for most of the time there, and it's the Jets. So, yes, didn't work out, but you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, put it into context. The good news is he went to the Rams and learned under Sean McVay. So you would think that he's only learned a lot more, gotten better. The Cardinals probably knew that internally, they must have known they were going to be bad this season. So why not take a flyer on a young head coach and just throw him in there, see what happens? Because why not? Kind of the opposite of what the Raiders did with Pete Carroll. Although I did think the Raiders would have been kind of a scrappy mid team last season. Certainly looked like that after they beat us week one. But obviously that did not pan out for them. Um, Yeah. Cardinals defensively, that's kind of the question there. Um, yeah, coaching, quarterback question. Again, they have a good amount of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And I coincidentally, I just opened it right to the Cardinals. Just let me see if I feel like I'm missing something here. Obviously, they lost Kyler, I said. Um, oh, they signed Jack Gibbons, my old guy from the Patriots last year. Um, Elijah Higgins, that's another good offensive weapon they have. Yeah, so they have the offensive line's not abysmal either. Um, they have some pieces on the defense. Defensive line could get a bit better there. So they have pieces, but it looks like they're kind of rebuilding, focusing on 2027, honestly. But they have talent, so I honestly think out of all the teams that I'm gonna put here, they are the most likely to be they're most likely to be pushing to be mid slash scrappy, or at least moving to that tier, and I think they'll be better than pretty much all the teams off the top of my head that I'm gonna throw in this tier here. So I'll leave the Cardinals there for now. Moving on next, we have the Falcons. They're an interesting one. They're an interesting one. Um, Jesus. I'm not. I'll put them. No, not likely playoffs. Okay, trying to put them. There we go. And maybe playoffs. I I'm debating about mid slash scrappy and likely playoffs. But I'll. Well, sorry, not likely playoffs. Maybe playoffs and mid slash scrappy. The reason I'm going to put them in maybe playoffs is simply because of the division. They're in the NFC South. I mean, last year we saw all the teams by the end of the season finish close. It looks like the Bucks had it, surely won halfway through the season. They started 6-2. They obviously collapsed the back half of the year, gave the division up to the Panthers, but the Falcons were right there too. And even the Saints, who started abysmal, made well, they were eliminated from the division, but they didn't finish too far behind either. So I honestly think it's realistic. I wouldn't be shocked if going into the season any team from the NFC South wins. Now, I, like everyone, of course, have my prediction for who's going to win it. I'll talk about that in a bit when I get to that specific team. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be the Falcons. The Falcons are interesting, though. A lot of change. They obviously fired Raheem Morris. That was a bit long overdue. Quarterback, that's certainly question mark to say the least. They already have injuries. Friggin' Matt Ryan, for Christ's sake, is throwing reps in practice the other day. That's how injured they are. A quarterback battle between Penix and Tua is certainly something. Kevin Stefanski, I do think is an upgrade over Raheem Morris, though I'm not too high on him. I thought he did fantastic his initial year in Cleveland, and then after that, I didn't think he really he didn't do as great of a job since then. The past couple of years, they've been bad. The Browns, obviously, the defense has significantly outshined the offense. Just a lot of questionable offensive coaching, head coaching decision moves. I know we won Coach of the Year in 23 too, but that was also in the offense it is part, but that was all, and they had a million different quarterbacks. If that was the year Jim Schwartz came in and they had the number one ranked defense. So I think Stefanski's can upgrade over Raheem Morris, but I still don't think he's really a fantastic head coach. Um, they have some weapons. They kept Kyle Pitts. He kind of picked it up toward the end of the year last year. Njoku did pretty solid for the most part with Stefanski, so maybe Stefanski can get Kyle Pitts going. Outside of Drake London, kind of a bit murky at receiver. Obviously, you had Bijan. The defense, some solid pieces there. Jeff Ulbrich really liked the job he did last year, even when he was the Jets coordinating their defense. Obviously, it didn't work out when he took over for Salas, the interim head coach. But Falcons have some pieces, but I'm not really going to fully trust them with a team led by Stefanski and either Tua or Michael Penix at the helm. But they have the talent. My guess is they'll probably be anywhere from like a 6 to maybe tops 9 win team. Maybe, get in the playoffs and probably get blasted immediately if that's the case. But who knows? I'll leave them in maybe playoffs for now. Baltimore, the Ravens. I'm going to put them in Super Bowl contenders. I You could probably make a solid argument to put them in likely playoffs because there are some question marks for the Ravens. Now, every year it's the same with the Ravens. On paper, they're right up there for Super Bowl favorites. Obviously, a massive, massive disappointment last season, going 8-9. Yes, they probably still should have won the division if Tyler Loop made the kick. They would have won it, but still, they probably would have gotten annihilated by Houston round one. Um, 8-9 season, they moved on from Harbaugh. Obviously, that was the big change. Loved to hire Jesse Minter. I'm a big Jesse Minter fan. I'm a Michigan fan. I loved when he was at Michigan. I really liked when he was at the Chargers. I kind of root for the Chargers. I'm a Patriots fan, obviously, especially not the wild card round. I didn't, but I kind of root for the Chargers. I like Herbert. Obviously, I like Jim Harbaugh. Since I'm a Michigan fan. So I think Jesse Minter did a fantastic job. I'm glad if he was going to get a head coaching gig somewhere, but I'm glad it's for a contending team. And he had his choices, of course. And I also like and Minter is going to call the defense, and there's plenty of talent on the defense, more than the Chargers. And look how well he did with the Chargers the 2 years he was the defensive coordinator there. I also like the hire of Declan Doyle at offensive coordinator learning under Ben Johnson. I really like the hire. Yes, it's a very young coaching staff, but I like the hire. A lot of wrinkles will be thrown into that offense, I believe. So, you get Lamar, Derrick Henry still, kind of some questions at receiver. Zay Flowers, obviously, very underrated receiver. Mark Andrews still there, but, kind of up and down. They lost Isaiah Likely, who I wanted the Patriots to get, by the way. We didn't. That's okay. Of course, we went to the friggin' Giants of all teams. Um, what else about this team? Yeah, you got the talent offensively, like the hire of Declan Doyle. Defensively, you got a lot of your guys back. You got Minter that's going to be calling the defense. Baltimore, just tons of talent. I'm now just real. I'm now just realizing I had a typo in that. I did Super with a B bowl. I don't know how I didn't notice that. There we go. Just pretend it wasn't like that the whole time. Um, yeah, the Ravens. I feel like let me flip them this magazine. I feel like I'm missing something with them here. Um, okay, let's see. Ravens. Let's see. Um, yep. Um, yeah, I think I got most of it. And looking at their schedule from this magazine, they start off at Indy and then they play the Saints. So with the new staff, you figure there might be a bit of an adjustment, and I think those officially probably the Saints, and then they play the Titans week 4. That probably should be a game where if you're gonna adjust and maybe be a bit sloppy, you probably can get away with it. So the Ravens, I like them this year, like everyone. I'm gonna throw them in Super Bowl contenders. Buffalo, I'm also gonna throw them in Super Bowl contenders. The Bills, they're pretty much, the same expectations every year. As long as Josh Allen's on the team, they're going to be Super Bowl contenders. The big change moving on from Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, interesting hire to head coach. A lot of Bills fans think Joe Brady is not a good offensive coordinator. I think Joe Brady has been a great offensive coordinator for the Bills. So, and I understand why they just promoted him because they didn't want to lose him and have another team poach him to be their head coach. So I can see that. I don't know how it's going to work as a head coach, but Buffalo, Josh Allen led team, the culture they built, you can probably just slot them in for 11, 12 wins at least every year. Um, let me check something about the Bills really quickly. Um, Bills, where are you? There they are. Um, let's see. Yeah. Um, obviously DJ Moore. That was what I was missing. Brought him in. Nice wide receiver run for Josh Allen, but you still get Khalil Shakir. Then outside of that, it gets a bit murky at receiver. Still get James Cook. Um, yeah, defense on paper, it's not spectacular, but they'll be okay, I think. You can probably slot the Bills in for, like I said, at least 11, 12 wins as long as Josh Allen is healthy. Panthers, they're interesting. They are an interesting one. I'll throw them in maybe playoffs. Um, do some organizing here. I think it's more likely they win the division than the Falcons, so I'll move them there. Um, Honestly, I'll leave Baltimore, or yeah, I'll leave Baltimore in front of Buffalo for now. Maybe I'll change my mind. But Carolina obviously won the division last year, and it feels like they're just progressing since Dave Canales has been there. Big year for Bryce Young. Prove it to you. He's just been super inconsistent. I have the next to the Falcons. He goes off against the Falcons and the Rams, but against everyone else, a big question mark. So the Panthers, they've improved the roster. They're getting better and better. Just consistency. That's been their issue. They're a much better home team than a road team for the most part. They had that one really bad loss to Buffalo last year, but they've improved the roster. I think they'll be a pretty formidable team. I feel like there's something I'm blanking on for them here. Let me pull them up really quickly. Um, Here we go. Let's see. Uh, let's see here. Um, obviously you have Ted McMillan, Jalen Coker. You get some decent weapons. Defense feels like it's just getting better and better. Hero Evero, I like him. You know, he did abysmal last drive against the Rams where he just went full prevent defense. The wild card, um, yep, Rico Dowdle, that's gonna be a bit of a gut punch. Um, losing him. Yeah, Panthers, they'll be a formidable team. I think it's most likely either them or Tampa to win the division, although I'm not counting out the Saints either. But yeah, I'll lead them in maybe playoffs for now. Bears, I'll throw them in likely playoffs. I think they'll at least make the playoffs. They're an interesting one though, because you would figure year two of Ben Johnson, the team should be progressing. However, uh, like I talked about with the Chiefs in 24, and what I'll be talking about with Denver shortly here, they're coming up a few teams on the line here. All the one score wins, the cardio win Bears last year, the cardiac Bears last year rather, are they going to be able to replicate that? Just kind of pull it out at the end like every single time. The defense was not good for the most part last year, but they kept getting turnovers. They led the league in turnovers, and a lot of them were crucial ones. Are they going to be able to replicate that? I don't think so, at least to that extent. So they went 11-6 last year, and many of those 11 in the regular season. Then many of those were at the last minute. Are they going to be able to keep pulling it off and keep pulling it off, or are they going to regress a bit and lose a lot of those games? A kind of a good comparison, I think, might be Minnesota in 22. They went 13-4. Similar thing. A bunch of one score wins at the last second. The next year, they've regressed to 7 wins. They had some injuries, and I don't think the Bears are going to regress to 7 wins. I had them in likely playoffs. I think they'll probably get around 11, 12 wins again. Well, 11 last year. I think the 11, 12 wins is kind of what I'm predicting for the Bears here. I'd certainly contenders to win the division. I honestly think the NFC North, all four teams can win the division. I wouldn't be shocked if any of them won going into the year. How's Caleb Williams going to do in year two of Ben Johnson's system? I think he'll improve. We still get Dennis Allen. The Bears were absolutely annihilated with injuries across the team, especially defensively. Hopefully for them, they can get healthy going into the year. The Bears will be a formidable team, but the question mark with them is, are they going to be able to repeat all the last second wins they got and all the turnovers on defense they forced, especially in crunch time? Cincy, they're an interesting one. Um, I'm honestly going to put them in, maybe this is a bit bold. I'm going to put them in likely playoffs. And the reason I'm doing that is because we know the offense. The offense is essentially the same. We know it's going to be one of the top offenses in the league. Obviously, their Achilles heel has been their defense. It's been absolutely abysmal the past 2 seasons. They really invested in the defense. They got Brian Cook, obviously the big one, Dexter Lawrence. Um, oh, they got a few other guys. Let me refresh my memory here. They got another Chief that was pretty notable, I want to say. Um, I'm not in like NFL mode 100% yet, as you guys can probably tell. I'm getting there though. Obviously, I've kept up with the news and talk about it all the time and stuff. But once the season gets going, I won't need to like look this stuff up, hopefully. Okay, let's see. Okay, where the hell are the freaking Bengals, for Christ's sake? Oh my God, this Baltimore. I'm getting close. There they are, Bengals. Um, okay, let's see. Let me just refresh my mind here. Kyle Duggar, Boy Mafe, Jonathan Allen. Yep, Dexter Lawrence, I said. So yeah, they really added to the defense. Again, the offense is essentially the same. Offensive line, can they invested a bit in that. They kind of got better as the year progressed. Um, let's see here. I feel like I'm missing something. Um, Yeah, they're retaining Al Golden for year two. I mean, the defense was abysmal last year, but what is he working with, especially with Hendrickson injured? I just remember there was, oh God, that Thursday night game against Steelers, the Yonk Bowl. That was a really fun game to watch. Their pass rush on one play on Rodgers. Rodgers hit like an actual eternity. It was a brutal watch. Trying to see their pass rush get to Rodgers on the play. But another thing with Cincy, um, they have not they have a pretty favorable schedule, especially kind of down the line as the season progresses here. They start with Tampa and Houston, so that's not easy by any means. Well, actually, then Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, so that's tough. Okay, well, Jesus Christ, now that I'm looking at this, start of the schedule is brutal. Then they play Miami, that should probably be a win. Baltimore after the bye, then here we go. Tennessee, Atlanta, Pittsburgh at home, Washington, New Orleans, Cleveland. They should win a majority, if not all, of those games. Then they play Carolina and Indy toward the back of the season. They end with Cleveland. So the Bengals start off slow. That's been their issue. They get a brutal start to the season, so they start off slow. That's going to hurt them. But good news for them, they usually pick it up toward the back half of the year, and they get not the most brutal schedule the back half of the year. Can Burrow stay healthy? That's the big question with them. Even if he doesn't, Joe Flacco's serviceable, can probably keep them afloat. He had the kind of the insanity run last year, even though they only won one game. Then he got hurt, and then it just wasn't really the same sense. But yeah, maybe a bit bold, but I'm gonna knock on wood for Burrow staying healthy, and I'll put them in likely playoffs. And then maybe they could be a team that gets hot, makes a run. Who knows? No one saw that in 21 coming. Okay, Browns. Browns are interesting. I'm gonna put them into onto 2027, but I'm tempted to put them in mid scrappy, more so scrappy. I think Cleveland will be around a 5-win team, maybe 6-win team this year, but I could see from a few of those wins knocking off a good team. Um, like for example, and since he's not the maybe not the best example because they only won 6 games last year, but I could see them splitting with Cincy. I don't know if, for example, if they play like the Chargers or the Jags, but I could see them beating one of those, for example. My point is, I could see them pulling off a pretty significant upset or two, and then beating up some bad teams. The Browns have a decent amount of talent still. I actually like the hire of Todd Monken. Now, what the hell are they going to do at quarterback? Who the hell knows? It's a complete mess. Deshaun Watson's been a disaster in practice. That contract is just absolutely abysmal. Uh, I mean, they should just stick with Shador. It looks like they're going to stick with Watson. Then Dylan Gabriel's in there too. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? Quarterback's a big concern. Um, the offense is a bit of a concern as well. I think Todd Monken will actually do a solid job coaching up the offense. I like his culture. The players are buying into his culture too, holding guys accountable. Um, Receivers, that's certainly a question. You get Judy, but it feels like he's kind of up and down. Um, yeah, offensive line. Yep, that's a bit of a question. Defensive line, well, actually, defensive line, they're still pretty good. 'Cause obviously, they lost Garrett. That's the big loss they had. But adding, why the hell am I completely blanking on his name? Jared Verse. I'm just gonna be completely blanking on his name. Adding Jared Verse is obviously it's a downgrade for Myles Garrett, but Jared Verse is pretty solid, even though he had a bit of a down year. That's part of the reasons why the Rams, part of the reasons, one of many, I'm sure, because trying to get Myles Garrett, it's just like what the hell, we'll give up whoever. That's one reason that the Rams traded him, I'm sure. But defensive line, that could cause some havoc for teams still. Um, let's losing Jim Schwartz, obviously that's gonna be a bit of a blow for the defense. You would think coordinating. I think they just promoted internally. Um, Mike Ruttenberg, I'll re-say his name. Falcons pass game coordinator. Yeah. well, the Falcons' pass defense was pretty good last year, so not an awful hire on paper. Headset just died. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Um, okay. Sorry about that. My headset actually just died. So I'll just be talking without it. I was saying to how I need a mic for my YouTube channel. My friend Nate's like, why don't you just use your Xbox mic? And that's a great idea. Just died though. Thought it was charged, but I guess not. But what the hell was I saying? That just threw me off completely. Anyway, Browns, I think they'll be scrappy, but I think they'll be closer to contending for the first overall pick. But I could see them being a scrappy kind of 5-6 win team though. But I'll leave them there for now. I am tempted to move them up there though. Dallas, they're interesting. Let's see. Do I put them in likely or maybe playoffs? Uh, oh, I'll leave them in maybe playoffs. Put them in the middle here. I think Carolina is more likely to make it just because of the division they're in. And Dallas is Philly in their division, obviously. The NFC East. Dallas, let me get to them in this fantastic magazine here. Okay, here we go. I'm in the right division. Of course, I flipped through all 3 teams before Dallas. Okay, here we go. Um, let's see. Yep, Christian Parker, like that hire as defensive coordinator. Um, Obviously the defense has been their Achilles heel for 2 seasons now. The offense certainly did its part last year, keeping the offense the same. Bit of a contract issue with Pickens, but he's good to go at least for this year. So the offense will be pretty good, you would think, be one of the better ones in the league. And even with their defense being as bad as it was last year, Dallas was making a playoff push late in the year. They beat the Eagles. They were down 21-0, won that game, and then a few days later on Thanksgiving beat the Chiefs. They beat both teams that were in the Super Bowl in a 4-day span, and they made a playoff push. Obviously, they didn't make it, but the defense got better. They made some additions there. Again, Christian Parker coming from the Eagles, running under Vic Fangio. You would think that's a good start, and he's really young. Let's see how young he is. Yeah, 34-year-old Christian Parker, so he's 34. So yeah, it seems like kind of the trends to hire some younger coaches. So you have to imagine the defense can't possibly be much worse for Dallas than it was last season. Um, and they let me who's the let's see here. Just looking at their free agent summary here. Yeah, so it doesn't, they didn't add like a massive like superstar, but they added at places where they needed to. So it looks like they're slowly improving the defense. Certainly, the play calling will be better. Shoddy, Brian Schottenheimer, year 2. Dallas will be a competitive team. I think it'll come down to them and Philly in the division. Even if Philly does win, I would not be surprised if Dallas ends up getting in anyway as a wild card. Philly were to win the division. Dallas is a bit of a tough schedule. It looks like. Yeah, I'll leave Dallas and maybe playoffs, but would not at all be surprised if they make it. I think they'll probably be around anywhere from a 7 floor to maybe 10 or 11 ceiling season for Dallas there. Denver Broncos. I'll put them in Super Bowl contenders. Denver's just a really well-balanced roster. They were last year, and they upgraded at receiver with Waddle. The offense last year, statistically, it wasn't awful, but it just kind of felt like just so many ugly performances where they wouldn't really consistently move the ball until the fourth quarter. And now getting Jalen Waddle, hopefully for them, it helps spread the offensive production out some more. Waddle and Sutton, that'll be a nice duo. They have some solid guys there. Marvin Mims. They still get Evan Engram. This how else am I missing? I'm missing one of the receivers. I'm gonna be like, how the hell did I just blank on this guy? Oh, Troy Franklin. That's who I was thinking of. Um, yep, you get Bryant too. Bo Nix, I think having Waddle will help him. You get Dobbins back. I might double check. Okay, yeah. For some reason, I was thinking Dobbins left for some reason, but they still get Dobbins, and obviously his issue is health. Can he stay healthy? I really liked what R.J. Harvey did for them last year. It was kind of some limited action, but I liked what R.J. Harvey did. And they also drafted someone, right? Yep, you get Jaleel McLaughlin still. Jonah Coleman's who they drafted. That's what I was thinking of. And then all around the offensive line was obviously a major strength in them last year, best in football probably. Um, the defense solid all around. You get Vance Joseph returning. Denver's just a really well balanced, solid team. Very well coached. Sean Payton giving up play calling to Davis Webb. How is that going to work? Sean Payton still said he's going to call some of the plays, so that'll be an interesting balance. Maybe that's bad for Denver, causes some tension or consistency issues, things like that, but I don't think so. Sean Payton knows what he's doing. But Denver upgraded their offense. Defense mostly stayed the same. So yeah, Jalen Waddle is obviously the big addition. I think, well, again, are they going to go 14-3 again? I don't think so because, again, how many last second wins did they get? Are they going to be able to replicate that? It shows teams in the past that have had seasons like that, they regress the next season. Do I think they'll regress to not make the playoffs? No. I think they'll make the playoffs, certainly contend for the AFC West at the very least. But I'm a Patriots fan, so I say this kind of in pain, but I think Denver will be one of the better teams in the league this year. Certainly a threat to make the Super Bowl and even win it. So I'll leave them as Super Bowl contenders for now. Detroit, they're interesting. Honestly, this might be controversial. I'm going to put them in likely playoffs. I'm going to put them in likely playoffs. And a big reason for that, first of all, they improved. They improved the roster. It did not work out with John Morton. It did at the start of the year, besides week one for a few weeks. And then since that Kansas City game, not really. Dan Campbell moved on from him. Dan Campbell took over the play calling through like midseason on for the Lions too. But he hired Drew Petzing, who Cardinals fans hated. Most of them at least. I actually thought he did a decent job in Arizona, and I think he's going to do an even better job with Detroit. And again, Arizona had a good amount of offensive talent, but all the talent Detroit has, I think Drew Petzing's going to do a good job there. And you still get Dan Campbell. Obviously, he's going to have his input. Just swap to the Lions here. Lions, where the hell are you? Okay, here we go. There they are. Yep. Kelvin Shepard didn't really do a great job statistically the defense, but had a bunch of injuries. Very energetic, culture, good guy. Seems like I think the defense will take a step up this year. Offensively, they're loaded. That's the good thing for Detroit. Defensively, not going to blow you away, but with some of the guys on paper, but you still get Aiden Hutchinson. Detroit, I think, is going to have a bounce back year. They had a tough year. They still went 9-8. But the schedule for Detroit. Let me just read some of the teams they play. New Orleans, the Jets, the Panthers, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Falcons, the Titans. Uh, who knows with the Vikings? Obviously, they play the Vikings twice. You figure they'll at least split with Chicago. Um, maybe split with Green Bay. Um, the Giants, that's certainly winnable. I, did I say Washington? Yeah, if I didn't say Washington, Indy, they have a really favorable schedule, you would think. I believe it's the easiest in the league, um, at least strength of schedule wise. Now, obviously, that's not a great way to judge it because it turns out sometimes, the teams that are going to be bad, people think turn out to be good. But going into the season, it looks like they have a good schedule for them on paper. I think they improved the roster, bounce back year for them. Maybe a bit of a bold take. I think, right now are my pick to win the NFC North. Maybe a bit of a bold take over Chicago, Green Bay, even Minnesota, I think could compete for it, but maybe a bit bold, but I'll go out and say it now. Speaking of Green Bay, I think I think three teams from the NFC North are going to make it this year is my guess. Obviously, the division winner, and then two of the three wild card slots will be two of those teams. Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings make it too. The whole division's in there. Green Bay, actually, I'll put. I think Chicago is more likely to win the division than Green Bay. Green Bay is interesting. They lost Jeff Hafley. I actually liked how they replaced him with Jonathan Gannon, though. Jonathan Gannon obviously gets a bad rep. Didn't work out in Arizona for the most part. His last game with the Eagles was the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, where they got shredded a few years ago. Lost 38-35. So Eagles fans do not like him, but I think he's actually a good defensive coach. Maybe not a fantastic leader, but it feels like, in terms of X's and O's, he's not bad. He's pretty solid. Matt LaFleur, some Packers fans thought he was going to get fired after the blown lead against Chicago. They extended him, so that was a bit of an interesting move. Jordan Love's going to be consistent. Lost Dobbs. My team signed him. Obviously, the Patriots. Actually, speaking of the Patriots, I'm going to save them for last. I'll probably talk about them the most here. Let's see. Yep. The offense will be one of the better units in the league. Josh Jacobs, who knows what's going on in that situation. Yep. Yep. Who knows what's going on with Josh Jacobs there? Hopefully, he'll be good to go for the Packers. Receivers pretty much stayed the same, but you lost Dobbs, as I mentioned. Lost Malik Willis too, who is fantastic for the Packers. And then the defense isn't, anything special on paper. Parsons probably going to be out till December. Corner, it's kind of a bit questionable, you can say. So yeah, Green Bay, I think they'll be. I don't think Green Bay is going to meet a Super Bowl contender like it looked like they were the past two seasons. Well, the first few weeks of last season, especially the first 2 weeks. But I think they'll be one of the better teams in the league. I think they'll probably be around a 10 to maybe even 12 win team. Things really go right. Certainly contenders for the division. I could see them, maybe only winning like 7 games if things really go bad, or 8, 9, something like that. Let's just take a quick peek at their schedule here. Some games they should win. Okay, Jets, Falcons, Panthers. That's interesting. Saints, Dolphins. So they don't really have too many give me wins. So they're interesting. I'll lead them in likely playoffs. Houston. Honestly, I'm going to put Houston in Super Bowl contenders mainly because their defense. This defense is absolutely unreal, and it got better. So the defense is going to be right up there for the top defense in the league, you would think at least. And then the offense is going to be what's holding them back. That's what held them back last year. If Stroud isn't absolutely abysmal against us in the divisional round, they're probably going to win that game, and our defense forced them into that situation. because our offense was struggling for the most part. We did most of the season, well, not most of the season, most of the postseason, I mean. Um, but Stroud being abysmal and our defense forcing him to be abysmal really helped us greatly that game. I assume they beat Denver, obviously with Stidham. If they beat us, and then who knows what happens in the Super Bowl. And yes, Denver beat them, but that was with Bo Nix, and um, then Seattle also beat them, but Houston's offense was absolutely awful that game. They still nearly won. Well, not nearly won, but they still were in it kind of till the end, from what I remember. And their defense scored a touchdown that game too. But that their defense is going to be something else. The offense, Nick Caley, I thought it started off bad, but it kind of as the year progressed, found a groove. Stroud, massive year for him. See, I mentioned absolutely abysmal against us in the divisional round. Not great against the Steelers either. Just it's gotten progressively worse since his fantastic rookie season. Um, but Houston's defense, I mean, their offense can get away with being bad because of how great the defense is. Um, let's see, what am I missing with Houston here? Let's see. Um, I mean, they have a decent amount of weapons. Dalton Schultz, obviously at tight end. Obviously, Nico Collins. Um, get Higgins. He had a good rookie year for them. Xavier Hutchinson. Tank Dell, he might be coming back healthy. I think he was off the injury list. I just saw the other day. And the Texans, they didn't have, a superstar addition in free agency, but they, like I said, their holes they added and addressed them, and especially defensively, they added some solid guys too. Um, yeah, Houston. I mean, Houston is going to be a force. I think they're going to win the division this year. I think Jacksonville, I'll talk about that in two teams here. Uh, I think they'll take a bit of a step back. Houston, I think, is going to win the division. I think they're a bit of a dark horse Super Bowl contender. Offense just needs to be consistent. Stroud needs to not just be average, and the Texans will be Super Bowl contenders. Colts, sorry. I'll throw the Colts and maybe playoffs. Obviously, they started off the year, it looked like they were Super Bowl contenders, and then they just completely collapsed the back half. They started to collapse when Daniel Jones was still quarterback. He was banged up, and then when he tore his Achilles and they brought Philip Rivers back, they didn't win a game the rest of the year. Finished 8-9. Uh, just a disaster of a year. The defense got worse. I don't know if it's a disaster of a year, disaster back half of the year rather. Daniel Jones, how is he gonna look coming back from torn Achilles? Is he gonna be able to replicate his initial success, or he's gonna look like the back half of the season, Daniel Jones, when they started to collapse a bit? How's the defense gonna look with Julian Arumo? Is it gonna look like it did the back half of the year, the first half of the year? Some questions to the Colts, but they still get talent. I think they'll probably be around a 7-win team, if I had to guess, but certainly could see them maybe get up to 9, 10 wins, maybe 11 if things really go right. Uh, I don't. They. It's a bit of a long shot for them, in my eyes, to compete for the division because I really feel good about Houston this year. But who knows? Let me see. I feel like I'm missing something with Indy here. Let's see. Losing Michael Pittman to the Steelers. Alec Pierce, obviously, he was the big free agent receiver. The Colts re-signed him. Josh Downs is solid. Um, the defense, nothing, you know, to blow you away on paper, but Lou is a solid DC, even though it hasn't been great for him the past few years. But yeah, Indy just what are they going to look like? Just too many question marks for me, but I think they'll be I'm kind of tempted to put them in mid/scrappy, but I'll lead them in maybe playoffs. Jacksonville. Hmm, they're interesting. Oopsies, just need the Cardinals. Um, oh, Jesus, I'm like rooting for them. All right, I'll put the Jags. I'll put them as the front runners for maybe playoffs. Tempted to put them in likely playoffs. Now, Jacksonville, I think, is going to take a step back this year. I don't think they'll be one of the worst teams in the league or anything like that. I just don't think they'll be replicating a 13-4 season. James Gladstone had an interesting draft strategy, to say the least. Liam Cohen, actually, do you know what? I'll put the Jags in maybe in likely playoffs. There we go. But I could see them missing the playoffs, having a bit of a down year. Maybe they're fighting until the end of the season. They go 9-8, just miss out, something like that. I could see that. Let me get to the Jags here. Magazine. Uh, where the hell are the Jaguars? Come on. They are. Okay. See here. Losing Devin Lloyd's going to be big. Anthony Campanelli, retaining him's big. Um, I mean, they didn't really add too many free agents. Um, Running back losing ETN's a bit of a question. Tootin's going to be good, but obviously ETN is a bit above him, you would think. Um, Receiver, it wasn't fantastic last year. Even um, uh, not a Brian Thomas. Jesus, blanking on his name. I wanted to say Marvin Harrison Jr. for some reason. Brian Thomas had a bit of a down year compared to his rookie year, but he's still there. Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington. Parker Washington, very underrated. Actually, their leading receiver last year. So you get a solid receiving core there. Tight end. You still get Bretton Strange, correct? Yes. I think so. No, let's see. Um, yeah, okay, they do. I was gonna say Quentin Morris too. Yeah. Anyway. Um, Defensively, they were really solid last year for the most part. Retain Campanelli. I think they'll be a solid defense. Um, Schedule, taking a peek here. Yeah, I think Jacksonville will probably finish around 10 or 10, 11 wins. That's my guess, maybe 12, something like that. But I could see them regress a bit, but I think they'll probably make the playoffs as a wild card team. I could see them winning the division, probably either them or Houston, but I'll go with Houston here. So yeah, I'll lead them in likely playoffs. My favorite team, the Chiefs. They are a really interesting one. I could I could see an argument for putting them in Super Bowl contenders, likely playoffs, or maybe playoffs. Maybe playoffs is, you can say, a bit bold, but I am really not that high on the Chiefs. It would not shock me if they have like a 9-8 season. However, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, doubt, and say likely playoffs. Um, and by the way, this isn't gonna be perfect prediction wise, I'm sure, but I may have like a million teams in likely playoffs, and mathematically it might not be possible. Like I might have 8 AFC teams, obviously only seven can make it, but it's just it doesn't have to be perfect. Just a tier list here. But I'll put them in likely playoffs. you can put them in Super Bowl contenders just because it's the Chiefs, Mahomes, Andy Reid. For me, it just feels like the Chiefs have been regressing for years and years now. And even really, I talked about it in my channel when it was happening. I thought they were the worst team ever to make the Super Bowl, the worst 15-win team in NFL history. Just all the one score wins, the ugly wins, the refs giving them just bullshit call in crunch time. It was ridiculous. And then they ran out of luck and they just get absolutely annihilated by Philly. And again, like I was saying with Denver and Chicago, all the one score wins they pulled off, they heavily regressed, heavily regressed. They didn't win a one score game until they beat Indy, and that was pretty deep into the year. They lost, I think, every one score game except that one. And that was when Indy started to collapse too. And it just feels like they really didn't substantially get better. They lost McDuffie. They traded him to the Rams. They re-signed Kelce. Rashee Rice still gets he's rehabbing his knee and he's got still says some legal things going on, but it looks like he'll be good to go. Can he stay healthy? Xavier Worthy. They have some decent options. A receiver. They still have Tyquan Thornton. Blanking on the rookie they drafted, but apparently him and Mahomes have a good connection at training camp. Although he got hurt, he's good though. It seems like Eric Bieniemy, I think, is a great hire for them. Matt Nagy, you can say maybe he's the reason the offense dropped off. Not the sole reason, but a big reason. I don't know if I think Andy Reid still calls the plays, or at least to a good extent. But Matt Nagy, I don't think it's a coincidence that the second Bieniemy leaves and Nagy comes in. Mahomes and the offense have taken a step back for 3 consecutive seasons. Eric Bieniemy getting back in there, that'll certainly be a bit of a boost for the offense. Running back getting Kenneth Walker, obviously that's massive. They've severely lacked a run game for years and years now. The offensive line, you get Creed Humphrey, but some question marks. They lost. Oh my God, why I'm blanking on his name. All right, I gotta look this up in the magazine. Um, he false started like every play. I'm completely blanking on his name. Can't remember it for the life of me at the moment here. Bear with me, folks. Let's see. Nope, that's the wrong team. That's the Raiders. Um, what? Okay, hang on. What? All right, let's see. This is driving me insane. I gotta look this up. Jawaan Taylor. Jesus, that was his name. Completely blanked on it for some reason. Um, but their first round, or was it their first round pick? Uh, let's see. Yeah, their pick last year, he had the weird thing where he was sitting out and they the family man and then he was hurt and they put him on IR at the end of the year. So that was weird. I think he's good to go. Um, but yeah, the number 3 in terms of invested salary cap in the whole league. So investing the line, protect Mahomes, obviously that should be a priority for them. Um, yeah, you have a solid receiving core, I think. One knock, you can say maybe they need a physical guy rather than a speed guy, although that's kind of Rice. Jalen Royals, a deep option for them too. Um, yeah, the 4 secondary players, this is a good little stat here, that they lost signed contracts worth $220 million. So, yeah, Chamari Connor's the only returning starter from a year ago. Lost Brian Cook. Obviously lost Trent McDuffie. Who the hell else did they lose? They lost their other corner too. Well, Mike Edwards, a crafty backup. That was a good fit for them. Um, Oh yeah, Jalen Watson. That was the other one. Obviously, they used their first round pick on a corner. They used a bunch of their picks on defense to beef it up. Steve Spagnuolo is really good at developing corners. I don't think the defense it wasn't great in terms. Well, actually, I believe statistically it still was a top 10 defense, but it dropped off compared to the past few seasons for the Chiefs. I think they'll be fine this year. They'll, I think they'll be middle of the pack. Borderline top 10 defense. The offense, I think it'll probably be maybe it looks the 2022 offense. The last year Bieniemy was there on paper did not have a lot of help from Mahomes, and they were the number one offense in the league. Had a fantastic season. Mahomes won MVP. I think they have more talent now. Obviously, things have changed since then, but maybe the offense can get probably not number one, but make a push to top five category, top 10 again. But I think they'll be flirting with top 10. I just think the Chiefs will kind of be middle of the pack in terms of rankings, but because it's the Chiefs, they do have a tough schedule. I think they'll probably, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they'll probably, and I hope I'm wrong here. I hate the Chiefs. I hope they go 0-17, and it's a disastrous season. But I think they'll probably be anywhere from at minimum a 9, but maybe to 11 or 12 top win team. But I think they'll regress a bit compared to what we're used to. I think that could be possible. But I'll put them in likely playoffs. I think they're. I'm gonna. There we go. I'll make sure my order is correct here, but that's my rough order now. So I'll slot them in there. Raiders are interesting. I'm gonna put them the first team to put them in mid/scrappy. I could see them just being a disaster, being into the on to 2027 tier, but I think they'll be probably around a 5-6 win team, but they'll develop their guys throughout the year. It looks like Kirk Cousins is going to start the year, but you figure it might be only a matter of time until Mendoza gets to go. They'll probably have some bad losses where it's like, oh boy, like what is happening here? Some bad bullet losses. They'll probably pull up a few upset wins. Probably get a few heartbreaking losses. You round it out, probably get around 5-6 wins, but a scrappy team. I like the hire of Clint Kubiak, especially for Mendoza. They lost Patrick Graham to the Steelers, but who did they bring in as DC? I'm blanking on his name. Yep, Rob Leonard. Yep, young. Yeah, okay. So that's yeah. I thought they promoted internally, but very young coaching staff for the Raiders. So that could be good or bad. Figure maybe tough to start the year, adjust. They get better as the year goes on. Obviously, you get Genty at back. Receivers get some talent there that Kubiak could utilize a lot of speed. Obviously, Brock Bowers being the big guy there. The defense not anything to write home about, but could be they were not statistically speaking, but Patrick Graham had them playing serviceable throughout points of the year last season. So the Raiders, I could see them being on to 2027, but I'll leave them in mid/scrappy. More probably scrappy than mid. Um, yeah. I'll just get rid of mid, just say scrappy, honestly. Um, Chargers. Uh, I am, I am honestly, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but people are down on the Chargers. I am the opposite. I am up on them. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they can honestly contend. Maybe this. I was gonna say maybe it's a bit bold. I'll put them in front of the Chiefs, but I'll leave them there for now. Um, yeah. Anyway, my logic for the Chargers is you still get Jim Harbaugh. I love the hire of Mike McDaniel at offensive coordinator. I think that is going to do wonders for the Chargers offensively. I think the Chargers will have a really solid offensive unit, and of course they have with Herbert. But I think going from Greg Roman to Mike McDaniel at offensive coordinator is going to do wonders for the Chargers. I think McDaniel's going to get the best out of the receivers. Um, the line, Herbert, the backs, Hampton will have a big year, I think. I think they'll be a very efficient offense. Now, defensively is kind of where the question marks lie. Losing Jesse Minter to Baltimore, on paper, they didn't have a defense that was playing up to how they actually were with Minter. So is that going to get exposed now? They just promoted from within, I believe. Um, let's see. Yeah, I believe Chris O'Leary Chris O'Leary is the DC. So they just promoted from within. Um, so yeah, offensive line, you're gonna get Alt and Rashawn Slater back. That was obviously the big issue last year. They made some free agency, some draft additions, really bolstered that up. It was a complete disaster last year. Poor Herbert. It's just that famous picture going around of the PFF rankings. They're all like dead last or second to dead last. Um, you got a good amount of talent on the defense, but the question is going to be Chris O'Leary, have them playing past probably what they should be doing on paper, like Jesse Minter did. Yeah, the Chargers, I mean, they have two games right off the bat. They probably should win Arizona and Vegas, so they really should start 2-0. And then, oh Jesus, look at this 4-game stretch: at Buffalo, at Seattle, Denver, at KC. Jesus Christ! And then the Rams after the bye, then Houston, and then Baltimore. My God, that stretch right there is probably why people aren't as high in the Chargers as I am. Um, but I think the Chargers will be a solid team. That schedule, I mean, that's probably a big part of why people aren't as high on the Chargers as I am. But I'm high on the Chargers. I think Mike McDaniel is going to be a fantastic hire. The offensive line getting healthy. Now, if they had Minter, I would honestly flirt with putting them in Super Bowl contenders. But we'll see how they do with Chris O'Leary. But for now, I'll lead them in likely playoffs. Rams, so they're specifically why I created this tier, Super Bowl favorites. And again, not only the betting favorites, I think kind of the consensus is the Rams really should be at least in the Super Bowl. I mean, what is a weak point this team has? Maybe the line, you can say. Maybe depth after Puka and Devontae, you can say. But I mean, you have Stafford, Puka, Devontae Adams, a solid line, um, good run game. Uh, you added Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie. Your two biggest weaknesses: pass rush, you can say, and corner, secondary. Well, that has been addressed. And now Aaron Donald is flirting to come out of retirement. It looks like he probably is, honestly. Even without Donald, I think they're Super Bowl favorites. With Donald, I mean, you can't put them any higher, but they should be Super Bowl favorites. The only thing I think stopping the Rams from at least making the Super Bowl is injuries or beating themselves. It's self-inflicted wounds. I honestly think it's the only thing stopping them from at least making the Super Bowl. Honestly, probably winning it. So they are definitely the Super Bowl favorites going into the year. Let me just see what else I have on them here. Let me take a peek at their schedule. All right, come on here. Can't find the friggin' Rams. I know they start the season against the Niners. It's the international game. Oh, here we go. They added Jalen Watson too, so that again addresses corner. Um, I mean, yeah, Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, my old guy from Michigan, fantastic 1-2 combo. Um, like they literally don't have a glaring weak spot. I don't think special teams is a mess last year for them, but if you're gonna get that patched up this year, they really do not have a glaring weakness. Should be Super Bowl favorites. I think the lowest you could possibly put them is Super Bowl contenders, but they really should be everyone's Super Bowl favorite, unless I'm missing something here. So yeah, I'll leave them as Super Bowl favorites. Dolphins, yep, gonna throw them into on to 2022. I will say the Dolphins, I think, could be sneaky early on. I think a good comparison might be the Bears in 2022. They were kind of scrappy early on, and they were floating around 500. They knocked off the Niners week one. It was a rain bowl game with Trey Lance starting, but still beat the Niners week one in Chicago. Knocked my Patriots off on Monday Night Football. That was a bad loss for us. And they were scrappy early on. And then teams got film on Justin Fields, and the offense took a step down. I think it could be not probably as much with the Dolphins here, but I think it could be similar to an extent with Miami. The offense, you don't really know what you're preparing for with Malik Willis. Now, he's absolutely zero help at receiver. I mean, he's Twan A-Chain. That's pretty much it, and that's his running back. But what are you going to prepare for if you don't really know for the Dolphins? So they could be tough early on to prepare for. So if they're going to get some wins, they might be coming early in the season because teams don't have film on them. And then once the season progresses, that's when they'll probably look like the team all of us expect them to. I mean, I'm trying to think of who the hell Malik Willis is going to throw the ball to off the top of my head. Let's see here. Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, and Malik Washington. Yeah, good luck to Malik Willis. No disrespect to those guys. I mean, they're decent as depth options, not your top three targets. Greg Dulcich was a decent tight end for them last year that emerged. Oh boy. Yeah, Miami's obviously in full rebuild mode. Bobby Slowik, I think, is a decent hire offensive coordinator. Obviously, it didn't work out in Houston. His second year, bit of a roller coaster compared to Stroud's first year. But might as well take a flyer on him. You're going to be bad regardless, most likely. Jeff Hafley, interesting hire. I liked him with the Packers. The defense kind of faded for them as the year kind of ended both times with him under the helm coordinating the defense. But again, may as well take a flyer. It's going to be bad regardless. You've embraced the full rebuild, trade a bunch of your guys. Believe Hafley's going to call the plays. Let's see here. Yep, well, the head coach will call plays. Yep. Yeah, Dolphins will be. I believe they get a brutal schedule too. Let's take a quick peek here. Oh yeah, oh yeah. They get a tough schedule too. So yeah, Dolphins. I think we kind of all agree they'll be tanking for not tangy, but yes, tangy, but rebuilding. They'll probably be in attention for the first pick. Anything other than that will be a bit of a surprise, I think. Minnesota. I'm going to take a sip of water here. Okay, Minnesota. I'm going to put them in maybe playoffs. Um, oh, I just moved I just screwed this up. Oh boy. Um, okay, now I'm moving down. Jesus Christ, what the hell am I doing here? All right, move Minnesota. There we go. Um, I'll leave them there. I could see them having a really good year. I don't think they'll replicate like Donald's first year. They went 14-3, but assuming Kyler Murray is going to win the competition, it looks like it's trending that way. You get the defense to Brian Flores, and now they lost Jonathan Grenard, obviously, but still a really solid defense. You got most of the guys back, I believe. Let me just double check. Um, here. Um, Let's see. No, it's Jonathan Allen too. Jawan Jennings, that's a really underrated ad for them. Then obviously Kyler, as I mentioned. Obviously you get Jefferson, it's the big receiver. Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, TJ Hawkinson. They got a good amount of receiving options. Let's see. Still get Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. It's a decent combo there. Solid combo. Yeah, Brian Flores, I think, will have the defense playing better than they kind of look on paper, similar to Jesse Minter. Vikings will have a really solid defense. For me, it just depends on how Kyler does with the offense. Kevin O'Connell, kind of a quarterback whisperer. I mean, the Vikings went 9-8 last year, and Kevin O'Connell had J.J. McCarthy, Max Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer starting at quarterback for them, and they went 9-8, and they were 4-8 at one point. They ended the year on a 5-game win streak, but still finished the year 9-8 with those quarterbacks. So what the hell is he going to do with Kyler Murray? But apparently Murray is kind of it hasn't been a smooth sailing for him to adjust to the offense. But if Kyler really adjusts, I could see the Vikings being one of the better teams, maybe making a push to the division. But for me, I think they'll be like a 9, 10, maybe 11 win team, somewhere around there. So, you know what? I'm really tempted to put them in likely playoffs, honestly. Oh boy. Mm, this is tough, man. The magazine I have has them finishing second in the division. The NFC North for me is probably the hardest division to predict the standings because, like I said earlier, I could realistically see any of the four winning it. Oh man, Jesus. All right, I'll leave them in maybe playoffs for now, but I would not be surprised if they make a big push. Saints, I'll put them in maybe playoffs. I like where the Saints are at, honestly. I think they're certainly a step behind Tampa, Carolina, and maybe Atlanta. They're closer to, but I like the way they ended the year. Tyler Shuck, I believe he went 5-4 as a starter. They started to play better as the year progressed. Toward the end, they started off bad. They started off sort of scrappy, and then they had a bad stretch. And then when Shuck came in, that's when the offense picked it up a bit. Brandon Staley got the defense rolling as the year progressed throughout. Um, Find out. Let me just flip to them here really quick. Um, Alvin Kamara is going to be a backup. Travis Etienne is going to take over the lead role. That's a really good combo. Receiver, you get Olave, obviously. You get Juwan Johnson still. Well, that's tight end. Um, you get Jordan Tyson from the draft. Um, you had Vele from Denver. Yep, Mason Tipton. I mean, no offense. Yeah, you got a decent receiving core there. Um, Offensive line's getting better. Um, Defensive line, that's kind of the big question mark. And you get an okay defense on paper, looks like. Um, Brandon Staley, I certainly think he's obviously much better suited as a defensive coordinator than the head coach. They lost Mario Davis. Obviously, that's going to hurt. If leadership, most likely. Um, I mean, the Saints. I mean, the reason I have them, I would probably put them in scrappy if they weren't in the NFC South. Because they're in the NFC South, I could see any of the teams winning because I think it's probably the worst division in football. Although I think Tampa and Carolina, I think, will be the two teams competing for it. As mentioned earlier, too many question marks. The Saints, I feel like another year, and they'll be legit contenders. But maybe they can make a push this year. Who knows? But for now, I'll put them in maybe playoffs. Yeah. Ooh, Giants. They're interesting. They're kind of getting off-season hype similar to the Bears. You bring in well, obviously Ben Johnson was proven as offense coordinator as a head coach prior. It's his first time head coaching with the Bears going into last year. Obviously, John Harbaugh is a proven veteran head coach. Get a culture change to the Giants. You get a second year player in Dart. You get Scadaboo coming back healthy, although he's doing backflips and looked like he dislocated his knee again. That looked bad, but apparently he's fine. You get a lot of hype surrounding the Giants there. Matt Nagy as offensive coordinator is certainly a choice. I don't think that's again the Chiefs have declined with him at offensive coordinator. No disrespect to Dart, but obviously even though I'm not a Mahomes fan at all, I call him mid Holmes. He's obviously way above where Dart's at. So and Andy Reid's on the team. The offense declines with Nagy there. How is it going to look with the Giants? So that's kind of the question mark there. Um, Defensively, they have a good amount of talent. Just trying to find them here in this magazine. Um, okay, let's see. Um, Obviously, trading Dexter Lawrence was their big loss. Isaiah Likely, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted him on the Patriots. Good ad there. Keeping Harbaugh keeping a guy for him. Neighbors come back healthy. That'll be big. Still get Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. That'll be a good running back combo with Scadaboo. Um, Still get Darius Slayton. Um, right? They re-signed him. I'm not losing my mind, am I? Yep, they added Fields too in the draft. Um, yeah, okay, yeah, they did sign. Oh, Theo Johnson, he had a good year for them too. Dart loved him. Um, who's coordinating the defense? Let me blank in here. Greg Roman, bringing him on the staff as an assistant's good. Same with Brian Callahan. Who the hell's defensive coordinator? I'm blanking here. Why am I completely blank and trying to find it here? Oh, Denard, there it is. Denard Wilson. Jesus, completely blanking. Um, just promoted from within. I'm pretty sure, right? Um, Hang on here. All right, I'm completely blanking. I believe he was just they promoted from within, unless I'm missing something here. Sorry, I'm perplexed now. I'm determined to find this. Oh, they also got Arvell Reese, by the way, at 5. That was an insane steal. Um, get Brian Burns still. Uh, Thibodeau still on the team as of now. I don't think they'll trade him this late. Um, Secondary, certainly some question marks there. But I mean, on paper, even without Dexter Lawrence, still get a solid pass rush. Still got some good guys up front on the line there. Um, but yeah, the Giants are interesting. Now they have a lot of people were saying they're kind of the pick to go from worst to first in the division. I was kind of on that train, and then I looked at the schedule. This is just a brutal schedule. So obviously they play Dallas, they're gonna have to play Philly and Washington twice a year apiece. They play the Rams, Houston, Jacksonville, the Niners, Seattle, Detroit. So they got some tough games. They have some games they should win too. Cleveland, uh, New Orleans, Arizona, Tennessee. They have some games they should win. Actually, Tennessee's interesting, but I certainly think Giants are heading in the right direction. I'm going to put them in scrappy. I think they'll be better than the Raiders this year. I if things really click, I could see them making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I could see them getting in as a late wild card team. Things really click, maybe 9, 10 wins for the Giants, but I think they'll probably be a really scrappy 7-ish win team, 8 maybe. Maybe if things really go right, maybe up to 11 wins, but that might be stretching. I think they'll be around a 7-win team, scrappy team, heading in the right direction, maybe another year away. Jets, they're kind of interesting. I'll put them in this tier. I think they'll be better than the Dolphins, though. I mean, you get Geno Smith at quarterback, so it's an upgrade over Justin Fields last year. You bring in Frank Reich at offensive coordinator, so that's an upgrade as well. Over how's his name? Tanner Edstrom, I believe. I honestly thought he called some decent games throughout the season, but I mean, he's limited with the quarterbacks he is as well. But obviously, an upgrade with Frank Reich. You bring in who the hell? Actually, well, Aaron Glenn, I believe, is calling the defense himself this year. He said, "Yep, Glenn will call the defense this year." Obviously, an upgrade with Frank Reich. Geno Smith did not work out with the Raiders, but an upgrade at quarterback still. Receivers, obviously, you have Garrett Wilson. You got, I mean, when the Jets tanked last year, part of the trade was for Sauce was A.D. Mitchell. Jesus, just blanked on his name. And a bunch of drops at the field against us the Thursday night, I remember. Omar Cooper Jr., he was my Raiders franchise guy. Loved him. And Madden. Let's see what else about the Jets here. I mean, they're getting better on paper. They added some depth guys. They got Mika Fitzpatrick. Obviously, he's older. So they're adding, but it's still the Jets. I think Aaron Glenn, he's getting fired after this year. I honestly can't believe they didn't fire him after this past season. I don't think they'll be as bad as they were this past season, but you can make an argument to put them in the scrappy tier. I think they'll probably be like a 4 to 6 win team, but I think they'll be in contention for the first pick still. If they get around 5 or 6 wins, probably not. They won't be picking first, but at the end of the day, it's the Jets. So yeah, I say that, and that'll probably bite me later in the year. Knock on wood, but I'll leave them on to 2027. But you could make an argument for the scrappy tier. Philly, I think it's going to come down to them and Dallas in the division. I'll put them. I think it's more likely. I'll put them right here in front of the Bengals. I think Philly right now, between them and Dallas, I would give them the slight edge. I just think Philly's simply more talented than Dallas. Obviously, losing AJ Brown to the Patriots. Some people are saying additions for subtraction, but for the Eagles, but they drafted Mekhi Lemon. They jumped the Steelers for him. Devontae Smith, wide receiver 1 season. Still got a great line. Offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. How's it going to work out with him? I mean, you have to imagine it can't possibly be worse than it was with Kevin Patullo on the Eagles. They went 11-6 last year, so probably would have went 12-5 if they played their starters against Washington Week 18. But yeah, you get Sean Mannion. So, oh boy, hi here. Oh, it's 11:30 as I'm recording this. So you get Sean Mannion. It has to be an upgrade over Patullo, you would imagine. You still get a bunch of talent. Solid line, Saquon. Still a solid receiving core. Not a big Hurts guy, as I talked about throughout my channel, but still, he's got a bunch of talent surrounding him. Defense, that's the strength the Eagles have. Lost some guys, but you added some guys. Added Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings. Obviously, that's a big addition for them. Still get Vic Fangio. So Philly, I mean, they just have a bunch of talent still. Let's see here. Well, yeah, losing to Kobe Dean's gonna hurt though. They added Rick Woolman. My old guy Jonathan Jones. Marquise Brown could be a sneaky signing for them. Some deep bombs there. Reed Blankenship losing him. Jalen Phillips losing him. So yeah, I mean, Vic Fangio, he had to lose some guys last year. The defense was well, as the year progressed, got better and better, and it was really elite in a few games. The Packers game, the Lions game, games like that. So the Eagles be one of the better teams in the league. Thing to peek at their schedule here. Looks like they certainly have some games that are borderline free. Not a freebie. No game in the NFL is, but really should win. Um, and you imagine all the better teams probably roughly maybe split with some of them. So you round it out. I guess is Philly's probably an 11, 12 win team. Compete with Dallas the division, but I'll give Philly the edge there. Um, put them in front of Chicago actually. Um, why not? I'll move Cincy in front of them too. Um, Pittsburgh. I'll put them in maybe playoffs. I I do like their receiving core. Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, bringing Mike McCarthy and obviously Mike Tomlin resigning, kind of a bit of a surprise. Mike McCarthy. Oh boy, sorry people. Jesus. Mike McCarthy, you know what you're going to get with him. He a good offensive coach. Probably not have his team ready, which is the same issue Mike Tomlin had in some games, especially for the playoffs. Lose to some underdogs, but you round it out, everything out, you'll probably scrape out. With Mike McCarthy of the Packers and Dallas, it was mostly around like 12-ish wins. The Steelers, I feel like they'll be around a 9, 10 win team maybe. I feel like 7 to 10 is their range this year. Let me flip the Steelers here though. Um, let's see. Um, didn't mention Rodgers his last year. He was actually solid last year. He even solid with the Jets too for the most part. It was a disastrous stint with him. Rodgers and McCarthy reunite. That'll be a good combo for Green Bay. Patrick Graham is DC. Really like that. I'm a big Patrick Graham fan. Um, what else here? Losing Kenneth Gainwell is going to hurt them, but Rico Dowdle is going to be a solid replacement. So get Jaylen Warren too. Um, and then they have a bunch of talent on the defensive side of the ball that Patrick Graham can utilize. Let's take a quick peek at their schedule here. Yeah, that not. I mean, let's see. They have some teams they should beat, but they'll probably lose to at least one of them, knowing Mike McCarthy and how the Steelers operate sometimes. I think the Steelers roughly, again, 7 to 10, I feel like is their win total this year. So I'll just throw them in maybe playoffs. 49ers, they're interesting. I'll put them in Super Bowl contender, but I think they're kind of distant Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they're already getting injured. Their practice list injury is insane. Mike Evans, big addition. Rookie Pearsall just announced he's going to miss the whole season. I think they announced that yesterday. They just need to get the hell away from that substate, the electrical substation, and freaking just fire everyone on the training staff for Christ's sake. It's every year with this team. When they are healthy, they make runs. And last year, half the team was hurt. They made a run. They made it all the way to the divisional round. I mean, they eliminated the defending Super Bowl champions. Okay, let's see here. Where are the 49ers? Coming up on them. Here we go. Okay, let's see. Kyle Shanahan in that car crash. I'm assuming it'll be good to go for the start of the year too. Losing Robert Saleh to Tennessee, obviously. Raheem Morris, I think, is a solid hire at defensive coordinator. He did good with the Rams. Obviously, he did not do good as the head coach of the Falcons. Even, I mean, most recently, but his other stint, 2020 interim, and then even with Tampa way back in the day. But I think he'll be a good defensive coordinator for the Niners. That's a good fit there. Obviously, quarterback, he had Purdy, Mac Jones, solid room there. CMC at running back. Um, Drafted someone too, I believe, off the top of my head. Um, oh yeah, they get some depth opposite backs too behind McCaffrey. They got to lighten his workload a bit. Um, they had a Christian Kirk at receiver, solid receiving core there. They lost Jawan Jennings. Then who the hell knows what's going on with Brandon Ayuk and his freaking like borderline CTE? It feels like. Um, yeah, Kittle coming back off the Achilles. Jake Tonjes solid backup for him. Um, yeah, you got a good amount of offensive talent. Obviously, you got Trent Williams still. Um, yeah, Fred Warner will be back. Let's see here. Um, Losing Kendrick Bourne, my old Patriot, that hurts. He had a big game against the Rams on Thursday night. Um, and they lost a good amount of guys, but they'll be good. Raheem Morris will have them balling out, I feel like. Uh, and then, yeah, looking at their schedule here, it doesn't look awfully daunting. Obviously, they play the Rams twice. They open in Melbourne, although they obviously play the Rams. They always play them tight, Shanahan and does. Miami, um, Washington, Atlanta, Vegas, Minnesota, the Giants. I mean, they have games they probably should win. Because simply because the much better team has some teams similar that they'll probably beat. So you chalk it up. I honestly think the Niners will be a Super Bowl contender. I think if they can stay healthy, maybe anywhere from 11 to 13 tops, somewhere like that. Could see maybe 10 wins if the injuries kick in. But I'll put them as a distant Super Bowl contender for now. Seattle. I'll obviously put them as a Super Bowl contender. Losing Clint Kubiak, that's going to be a big loss for them. They just promoted then, I believe. Let me just double check here. Yeah, I believe they just promoted from within. Is the offense going to be the same? They lost Kenneth Walker. Um, that's going to be a big loss. Obviously, they drafted Price in the first round of the last pick of the first round. Still get Zach Charbonnet, but he might not be back till maybe the middle of the season. What this magazine says. Um, that'll be maybe a bit of a feel out process at running back. Maybe the offense in general. Still get JSN, Shaheed. I mean, pretty much the same receiving room as last year. Uh, Offensive line really solid. Then defensively, they lost some guys, but I mean, Mike McDonald is gonna have that defense ball, and they'll be right up there for arguably the best defense this year again. Um, let's see here. Yeah, Boy Mafe, Kobe Bryant, Rick Woolen. I mean, they lost some guys, but still. Um, Mike McDonald will have that defense balling. Seattle, they'll certainly be a juggernaut. I think they'll be, competing with the Rams in the division. I think they'll probably be around maybe a 12 to maybe 11 to, but more likely, in my opinion, 13, 12, 13 win team this year. Um, maybe some, the offense adjusts a bit. They take a bit of a dip down toward 11, something like that. But they'll be one of the better teams in the league. Certainly a Super Bowl contender. Then taking a quick peek at the schedule here. Play some good teams, definitely. Actually, pretty brutal schedule, but Seattle, I respect the hell out of them. Obviously, they kicked our ass at the Super Bowl. I'll put them at Super Bowl contenders, certainly. Tampa, Tampa. I mean, I'm gonna. Oh, jeez, he's doing this. I'm gonna honestly put them in front of the Bengals because I honestly think Tampa's going to win the division, so they'll have an easier path versus since he's going to have to get in as a wild card, according to my predictions here. Baltimore above them in the tier list. Tampa, I think, will win the division. I will say Todd Bowles, I think, should have been fired. I've never been too high on Todd Bowles as a head coach. He's only 22. I think him and Byron Leftwich and just the mess of a coaching set just ruined Brady's last year there. Just not a great head coach, in my opinion. He had the 1 year with the Jets in 2015 that was good, but even they end that year, just an abysmal performance against Buffalo that they just got the doors blown off them. They had to win it in, couldn't get in, and it wasn't even close again. They just got the doors blown off them. I do like that. Well, losing Mike Evans will hurt, although he was hurt for most of last year. Getting the offensive line healthy, that was a big issue for them last year. The hire of Zach Robinson, an offensive coordinator, I don't think he's a fantastic offensive coordinator. I certainly think he's an upgrade over Josh Grizzard, that was Tampa's offensive coordinator last year. And Tampa's got a bunch of talent offensively, so that's certainly you had Baker coming back. Maybe the contract negotiations, well, they ended, but the contract situation carries over. I don't think Baker will let that happen, though. He's staying on business type of guy. So he's going to focus on football. I believe him. But big year for him, being a free agent after this year. I tried to tamp on this. There we go. Let's see. Kenneth Gainwell is a really underrated addition. Let's see. Getting Ruben Bain is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how the hell he was still on the board. Levante David retired. You lost Jamel Dean, Logan Hall, Hassan Reddick. So, they lost some guys. Rashad White. You still get Bucky Irving, Kenneth Gainwell, nasty combo there. Receiver I mentioned, they lost Mike Evans, but you still get a solid receiving core there. Obviously, you got Godwin, Tez Johnson, pretty underrated. You get Ibuka, obviously. They re-signed Cade Otton, so you get a good amount of weapons. Upgraded defense where they needed to. On paper, Tampa looks good. I honestly just think Todd Bowles is going to hold them back. They start off hot every year, hit the rough patch, and end the year hot usually. I don't know. I just think Todd Bowles is the head coach is going to hold this team back for them, unfortunately. But I think they'll win the division, probably be 10, 11, maybe 12-win team. They could make some noise in the playoffs. Certainly a threat to win a wild card game, maybe a divisional game. Then I think their ceiling's probably the NFC Championship. I don't think they would really beat Seattle or the Rams, but I'll put them in likely playoffs for now. I think they'll have a good year, good regular season at least. Titans, I'm gonna put them in scrappy. I like what the Titans are doing. I like Robert Saleh, the hire of him at head coach. I don't think he really had a fair shot with the Jets. Again, it's the Jets. He had the Rodgers fiasco. He was stuck with Zach Wilson. Had to deal with Woody Johnson. I don't think Robert Saleh got a fair shot as head coach. I like what the Titans are doing. I like bringing in Daboll as offensive coordinator. I think he's going to help Cam Ward develop. Titans here. Here. How are they? There they are. John Fossil, bringing him as special teams coordinator. That was a great hire as well. Gus Bradley, running the defense. he is the DC. Yeah, Gus Bradley is the DC. Gus Bradley is a solid DC. Certainly has his flaws, and his defenses have gotten torched in times. But for the most part, I feel like he's a solid defensive coordinator, especially where the Titans are at now, figuring some things out, bringing a serviceable guy. Not the best, not the worst option. I like that hire. Cam Ward, I honestly thought was better than the stats show last year. I liked him, and even after watching the most recent quarterback season, I like him even more. Really developing into a young leader. I think Dave will help him in his development, as I mentioned. Thought they might get Jeremiah Love. The Cardinals snagged him. Tony Pollard still solid. Tajay Spears, not an awful 1-2 combo there. Tony Pollard had over 1,000 rushing yards for them. Adding Wan'Dale Robinson from the Giants. Daboll's keeping his connections there. Carnell Tate, Calvin Ridley. You got some. You got rookies from last year. Aya Manor. Well, I guess second year guys this year. You get DK. He had a few nice catches. The offensive line, that's very much a work in progress. That's the big question mark there. Let's see. That's the question mark. Defense is kind of going to be the question mark. But Gus Bradley, again, not the worst option. I think they'll be a scrappy team. I think they'll have some bad losses, have some few good wins, knock off a good team or two, maybe three, round it out. I think they'll probably be a 5 to 7 win team, roughly. But I like the direction they're heading. They play the Jets week 1, so they very well could start 1-0. Well, at home, I imagine they're favored in that game too. But I'll put the Titans in scrappy. I think they'll be the definition of scrappy. Okay, 2 teams left. Washington. I'll put them in maybe playoffs. I honestly, I don't really know how I feel about them. I feel like Jane Daniels being back is going to be a bit of a boost for them. David Blau taking over the offense for them. How is that going to operate? Actually, let me flip to them here. They'll get Terry McLaurin, obviously. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like they'll be in between last year and their 24 season. I don't think they're going to have nearly as much success as they did in the 24 season, and injuries played a big part in why they were as bad as they were last year. I feel like they'll be around like a 7 to 9 win team this year, roughly, if I had to guess. Okay, let me try to find them though. Here we are. See. Just trying to see. Marcus Mariota is a really solid backup too. You had Bill at running back, obviously. Rashad White, it's a solid backup option there. That's the issue, is kind of receiver. You get McLaurin, and then after that, Luke McCaffrey's okay. And then, Van Jefferson, Jalen Lane, so some question marks there. Chika Conquo, a decent addition at tight end. Let's see. Von Chase, on my old guy, signed with them for the Patriots. Loved him last year with us. Kel Witherspoon, there you go. Lost a bunch of guys. The Commanders are just old. Jane Daniels think of a good year, but the Commanders, I just feel like, I don't want to say it was a fluke, their 24 season, but just feels like, again, a bunch of last second come from behind wins. They keep winning in dramatic fashion. They regress, like I talked about throughout this video with some teams. And injuries, things like that. So I think they'll kind of be a middle of the pack team. I think their floor is probably 5 or 6 wins if things go really bad. But their ceiling, I think they'll be maybe 10 tops, but I think roughly, I think they'll be like a 7-win team. But if things go right, maybe they make a push for one of the late wild card spots. Yeah, who did they bring in as DC? Blanking on it. Let's see. Yep, they just promoted from within, I believe. Yep, first year coordinators. So, yep, and nothing spectacular defensively for the most part on paper. So Dan Quinn kind of on the hot seat. So yeah, I think they'll be a middle of the pack team this year, if I had to guess. So I'll lead them in maybe playoffs. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'll just put them. Can't get in. There we go. I'll do some rearranging here. Actually, again, because the Saints are in the NFC South, I'll just leave them here, honestly. Okay, let me look something else up here. Oh, I may have said with Denver, I may have said David Ball. I meant to say Davis Webb for their offensive coordinator. Okay, let me take a sip of water here. Here we go. My beloved Patriots. All right. Obviously I know this team the best of all, but in case I miss anything, let me switch over here. Okay. Here we go, my beloved Patriots. Okay, so at first I was not really the biggest fan of how our offseason was going. I liked the addition of Dobbs at first. I like it even better now. I was worried we were going to trade Booty. Apparently, we still are having some conversations. Booty said he's open to being traded. Well, he didn't say that, but he said his apparently privately he said that he's open to being traded to the right spot. Really do not want to trade him. I love Booty. Our receiving core, pause. Our receiving core is really deep right now, which is a good issue to have, honestly. Too much talent. We're gonna have to cut one of our guys that would make a typical roster. The AJ Brown signing, I want signing trade, absolutely love it. I think we finally have a legit superstar wide receiver one. Yes, you can say he's had some personality issues. You can say sometimes he cares more about getting the ball than winning. You can argue. Vrabel, I think if there's anything there, I think that'll be corrected. I think he's happy in New England. It seems like he's having a great time. Drake May so far. Him and Drake May, I think, will be a fantastic connection, especially in the deep ball, the intermediate game, the play action game across the middle of the field. I think it's going to be a fantastic connection. It's going to open the offense up for our other guys more. Him, Dobbs, Booty, Pop. That's going to be an insane combo. Kyle Williams is a potential cut candidate, which would suck. Matt Collins might move to tight end. That could fix some things at receiver for us from cut decisions. I love Matt Collins. Chisholm, if we practice squad him, he's probably going to get stolen. So I don't know what we're going to do with him, but I love Chisholm. Obviously, quarterback, we have May. Coaches, obviously, we kept McDaniels as OC. Zach Core getting a full off season of prep instead of being thrown in the spot unexpectedly last year. Did a fantastic job, especially in the playoffs. I am hyped for Zach Core's defense this year. Running back, obviously, we're keeping Henderson, keeping Stevenson, like that. Let's see, what am I missing here? Oh, the line. Obviously, that was the big issue for us last year, especially in the playoffs, and obviously, especially in the Super Bowl. We drafted Caleb Lomu. Let's see, we got Michael Onwenu. Well, it looks like we're gonna move once Moses retires. It looks like Onwenu is gonna be his replacement. Will Campbell, he's healthy at least. After he was honestly playing well up until he got hurt, and then he kind of rushed back, I think, and just wasn't the same. Obviously that was especially glaring in the playoffs there. Jared Wilson, we're moving him to center. Um, Elijah Vera Tucker, that's a good pickup, but he's always hurt. But the way we structured his contract kind of factors that in. Um, let's see. Yep, Caleb Lomu. I feel like I'm missing one of our linemen that we signed. Um, we got Crown over late, round six. Round six. Um, I mean, so the line I think we upgraded a bit, but still kind of middle of the pack. Find their groove. Doug Marone, still our offensive line coach. Correct, right? Uh, oh boy, is he? Oh yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I mean, our coaching staff is low key nice. It was to last year too. Todd Downing, previous offensive coordinator. Um, um, Thomas Brown, same thing with the Bears. Um, she was the interim head coach at the Bears too. Um, Doug Marone, obviously former head coach, really good offensive line head coach, or not offensive line coach. We hired Shane Bowen as a defensive analyst, like that. Um, so yeah, that covers the offense. Defensively, I mean, our defensive line I really like. It's pretty much the same as last year. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. We lost Tonga. That sucks. Um, but obviously the big two, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. The secondary, Gonzo. Hopefully we can get his contract sorted out. But even if we can, he's going to play for us. Gonzo, Carlton Davis. Um, Craig Woodson, absolutely loved him in the secondary at safety. He had a great Super Bowl too. We added Kevin Byard. That's an upgrade over Jalen Hawkins, even though I like Jalen Hawkins. Obviously older, but still. Um, Harold Landry, hopefully he's good to start the year. He might miss week one, but he had a solid year for us. Last year we got Draymond Jones in free agency. We got Gabe Jackas too, although his contract situation, he just signed. Now he's hurt. He like hit his knee injury details or something. What the reports saying, but it looks like he's good to go now. Hopefully. KJ Britt, we essentially slotted him, signed him. Are going to slot him in for Jack Gibbons. Christian Ellis, like him. Spillane still obviously there. Special teams, Borregales started off the year rough. I was like, please get him off the team after he missed back-to-back extra points against Miami. He was really consistent for us after that. Yeah, Julian Ashby, he did good on snapping. Bryce Barringer, um, he had a lot of touchbacks, but I think he kind of got better for the most part. So he's going to improve on that on his touchbacks, but thought he was fine most of the year. Marcus Jones at returner, obviously that's a lethal. Chisholm, Henderson, Kyle Williams, maybe at they returned kicks throughout last season, so we'll see what happens there. In addition to Jones, what am I missing here? What else am I missing here from our guys? Um, What else am I missing? Obviously, we lost Chase on. I mentioned earlier, talking about Washington. Julian Hill, we signed him, but he's already on IR to start the year. So um, we drafted a tight end in round 3 that some high hopes for. Reggie Gilliam, he's going to be good in the run game, really good in the run game. Sneaky signing for us. So I really like our team on paper, honestly. I think it's better than it was last year. Are we going to have a Super Bowl hangover? I don't know. Hopefully not. I don't believe we will to an extent, at least that some teams have, especially teams that lost the Super Bowl. Vrabel, the controversy with Diana Rossini, looks like that's over with. The players, you know, are fine with it at this point, if not like patting them on the back, honestly. Obviously not that it's honorable, but you know what I mean. it seems like it's over with. They've moved past it. Is what I'm trying to say here. Um, let's see. Josh Farmer, he might have a big year. Yeah, the schedule narrative that we had to deal with last year, that's not the case this year because we actually have a much difficult schedule, much more difficult schedule than last year. I mean, our first 4 weeks are brutal at Seattle, and we play Pittsburgh at home, at Jacksonville, and at Buffalo. I mean, that's can't get much more difficult than that to start the season. But I really like our team on paper. I think we're going to be better than we were last year. I think we'll be a better team with probably a lesser record. I don't think we'll go 14-3 again because of the schedule. My friend Nate put it in a good way. Like I just said, better team with a lesser record. I know it's kind of what's the word? Contradicting, but hopefully it makes sense. I'm going to put us in Super Bowl contender. And again, maybe a bit biased here, but fuck it. I'll just throw us in. I'll throw us behind Seattle. Baltimore. My argument for why I'm putting this ahead of them, coaching. We meet them deep in the playoffs. Both teams will be experienced, but we just made the Super Bowl. Lamar's had his playoff issues. Jesse Minter is the head coach, and Declan Doyle's the head coach, is the offense coordinator. And with the pressure there, how are they going to react? Maybe something like that. Buffalo, same thing. Joe Brady is head coach. How's the defense going to? Well, the defense is that's why they kept losing because of McDermott's defenses kept collapsing when they kept losing playoff games. So I was going to say, how is the defense going to be? But it was a disaster anyway. But I think honestly, on paper, we're a better team than Buffalo. Probably split with them this year. Um, Denver, again, I think they're a really well balanced roster, but I think they'll be regressing a bit this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, but honestly, on paper, I really like our team. I really like our team, the coaching, the experience, things like that. I think I think I'm good, maybe a bit controversial, but I'm good with putting us there. Um, let's see. Is there anything else I want to change around here? Let's see. Again, what I think that I think the Eagles might be a better team than the Lions, but the Lions' schedule is just so favorable for them to win the division. Yeah, I'll put Philly in. Yeah, I'll put Philly in a distant Super Bowl contender. I'll upgrade them a tier. I don't think they'll win it this year or make a push make a push to get to it, obviously, but I don't think they'll I don't think they're realistically beating Seattle or the Rams. Um, and honestly, I think the Niners might beat them if they match up in the playoffs again. So I'll put them there. Um, okay, so I think I'm good there. Likely playoffs. Um, again, it feels weird having the Chiefs there. Um, yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe playoffs. I'm a bit hesitant here. These couple orders, these couple of teams for. Um, let me put. Let's see. I'll put the Steelers in front of the Colts. Um, I'll put them in front of Washington too. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. That definitely okay with that. Uh. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm pretty happy with this list. Certainly, some things I may change my opinion on, but as a basis, this is good to start off. I think. So yeah, this is a long video. I don't even know how long I've been talking. Guess I'll find out soon here. But yeah, good to get back into football mode. Great to talk about it again. Um, yeah, I will wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free to light me up in the comments section. Tell me if you agree, disagree. Tell me how stupid I am putting this team here, my dumb reasoning, logic, things like that. Any good points I made, feel free to touch on those as well. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I didn't make you guys too mad with your team's rankings. But I will wrap this one up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be on the lookout for content. I promise I'm going to upload some as the season gets near here. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Take it easy. And as always, go Pats.